Hello. Today we'll learn the skills of comparing fractions. In order to do today's work, you would need to know these things. Know what is a fraction, know what numerator and denominators mean, and can work out equivalent fractions, and know how to calculate LCM, the lowest common multiple. So during the video, there are going to be work that are semi-interactive. So when I say pause the video, you should pause it and attempt to work on the screen. When you finish, you can press play again to check your answers. So please do remember to do that so you don't sneak peek the answers beforehand. Okay, so it might take longer than this video's length for you to finish this whole session, but that's the idea. You could listen to some of the stuff and then do some work, then check your answer and then continue. Okay, right, so let's look at the first bit. Actually, before you do that, can you pause this video, make sure you have your maths workbook out, then you can write your title, comparing fractions, and today's date on, and then continue the work on your math book. Okay. So the first piece of work, can you try to order these fractions from small to big? And this should be a straightforward work, and there is a fraction bar on the top of this page. So 1/8 whole bar is divided into 8 pieces. So pause your video now, copy this question down, and then write these fractions in order of small to big underneath the copied question in your workbook. Okay? So pause. Now, if you press play again, I will show you the answers next. Have you got the right answers? I bet you have. These fractions are easy to compare because the denominator, these numbers, are the same. So each of the piece size is the same, and you just need to look at how many pieces this fraction are taking. So obviously 2 is smaller than 3, and smaller than 4, and 5, so on. And it is very easy to do when you have the same denominators. Okay? Now moving on to fractions with different denominators. Actually, it's also possible to do. If you have a fraction wall, you can use it to understand which one's bigger. So, and you might not even need the fraction wall, but it's there to help you. Go on, pause the video, have a go at ordering these fractions. When you finish, press play again to see the answers. Okay, have you finished? Right, this is the order of these fractions from small to big. As you can see, because the numerators are the same, what matters is the denominator. Okay, so numerator is all of them are 1, so 1 piece. But this 1 piece, what's the size of the piece matters, yeah? 1/9 is the smallest because a whole bar is cut into 9 pieces, so most number of pieces, and each piece is smaller than if the whole bar is cut into 8 pieces, and it's smaller than if the whole bar is cut into 7 pieces, and it's smaller than if it's only cut into 5 or 3 pieces. So for fractions with the same numerator, you can say that if they have a larger denominator, that means the size of each piece is going to be smaller. So same numerator, larger the denominator, smaller the fraction. Alright, so let me just move this up a bit. Then you can write that in your notes. Okay, so that's another way to look at fractions that have the same numerators. Okay, and you don't necessarily have to use the fraction wall because we have this rule. Large denominator, meaning each piece is small, and therefore smaller the fraction. Okay, now have a go yourself. Without using the fraction wall, can you order these fractions from small to big? Press the pause button to try it on your book. When you finish, press play again and check your answers. Okay, have you finished? Let's have a look whether you got them right. Yeah, I'm sure you have. Right, so what about you have a try at these set of questions, okay? You are to look at the pairs of each question and decide which fraction is bigger. And for each row, they have the same reason. So after you finish comparing, like circle the bigger fraction from each pair, and then you also have to write the reason why that is the case, okay? Can you please do that in your math book, okay? Pause the video now. When you finish, we will have a go through of the answers. Right, I think you would have finished and press the play button again. Okay, so on the top row, these fractions, 3/8 and 5/8, the 5/8 is bigger. This is because they have the same denominator. The piece sizes are the same, and what matters is the numerator. The more number of pieces you have, 5 pieces, the bigger the fraction. Same thing goes for the 3/7 and 2/7 because the denominator is the same. The bigger numerator gives you a bigger value. So same denominator gives you numerator is bigger. Okay, so that's the reason why those two fractions are the bigger one in the pair. In the second row, if you notice, in each pair the numerator is the same, so the bigger fraction for question number 3 is 3/4 because the denominator is 4, that's a smaller number, and therefore each piece of this fraction is a bigger size. All right, so for number 4, numerator is the same, and the bigger fraction is the 5/9 because if the whole bar is divided into 9 pieces, each piece is bigger than the pieces in 5/11. Okay, so although they have the same number of pieces, each piece is bigger in the 5/9 piece. So the reason for this row is same denominator and smaller. What am I saying? That's wrong. Okay, sorry. It's not the same denominator, is it? This one is the same numerator. Smaller denominator. So the last column, last row of questions, these are slightly trickier because there's nothing the same really. How do we do this? It's going to be the same idea, okay? So in the first pair, 2/5 and 3/4. If you notice, the numerator is smaller, yeah? That would make the fraction small if they got the same denominator. But at the same time, the 5, the denominator, is also bigger. That's also making the fraction smaller because each piece is a smaller piece, okay? So 2/5, this whole thing appears to be smaller than 3/4 because in 3/4, each piece is bigger because 1/4 is bigger than 1/5. And then you have 3 pieces of the bigger piece. So overall, this number is bigger. Same thing goes here. You have a bigger numerator and a smaller denominator for the number 5, 6. Okay, so the reason I would write down is bigger numerator and smaller denominator. So if you have gone through these questions and got all these answers correct, and that's really quite good already, and you might think that the last one is very tricky because you have to think which one goes bigger and which one goes smaller, and what's not then, and a numerator and denominator, all those names that might be a bit confusing. Like I've done some wrong name calling in the second row. So that's easily done. But actually, comparing fractions, there is a general method that will make the life much easier. And also, I think you guys have done some comparing fractions using fraction wall, which is very visual and direct, but that's not the best method either. So we're going to have a look at what's a general way of comparing fractions, okay, today. So